Perfection. The character arc of Mayuri is far more than the growth of a bitter, reformed, mad scientist chasing after his dodgy-looking rival, more even than the hardships of an ambitious and inexperienced single dad. It is what lies at the peak of a mountain formed by the amalgamation of all things related to the concept of perfection in Bleach. Through Mayuri, Kubo brazenly thrusts us, the reader, into a philosophical conversation dealing with the very nature of divinity, through things like Gnosticism, Buddhism, and Christianity. In other words, the true nature of the divine that exists in Bleach. A conversation that is, by design, complex to no end. It's only right that we begin this conversation with Mayuri's name, as all things do with Bleach. The first kanji of Mayuri's name is Kurotsuchi, or black soil. This singular kanji holds a world of significance, as it is integral to how the Japanese describe things that refer to Nirvana. For those of you that don't know, Nirvana holds deep significance in Buddhism, meaning to blow out or quench, and describes both the extinguishing of passion and true escape from the cycle of rebirth, otherwise known as samsara. In other words, in some way or another, Mayuri is directly connected to the end goal, if there is an end goal, to the cycle of souls. Through his development, we're provided a new lens through which we can view the greater conversation of the original sin that led to the birth of the Bleach universe as we know it today. It is why Mayuri can confirm when souls reach hell, resurrect fallen Shinigami from the point of no return, and most importantly to him, create life from nothing. Now, on the topic of Nirvana, I should note that there are two main types. Nirvana at one's point of awakening to the truth of reality, which coincides with the Gnostic themes of the series, which I touch upon in my Soul King name reveal video, check out if you haven't, and at death, both of which likely refer to Mayuri's journey as a scientist and a father, gaining captaincy through the combination of the fetus of one of the predecessors to Nemu and his Zanpakuto, which I should remind you is infused with the essence of a Shinigami soul, and through which he was able to create Ashisogi Jizo, a living Zanpakuto. This was but one of the fruits of his greatest discovery in his pursuit to create life from nothing, a feat no short of that which lies in the realm of the gods. This was the pivotal moment in which he was no longer just a madman feared because his intellect was incomprehensible to the average person. Mayuri, in the literal and metaphorical sense, found true footing amidst his wildest dream. It is why the name Nemu, referring to the verb to dream in Japanese, is so fitting, as through the conception of his daughter as both a scientist and her dad, the idea of simultaneously being awake and asleep to reality becomes possible. It highlights the peculiarity of their dynamic. He is, upon first inspection, ruthless, using his own daughter as a meat shield, but as we are reminded continuously about Mayuri, he treads along very strict bounds. There is always a method to his madness, and if he is to use her in battle, it is only to the extent that his overwhelming cautiousness and confidence in his creation, Nemu, allow. But what does it mean to be both awake and asleep? And he battles this contradiction throughout his character arc. Also, if you haven't already, be sure to drop a like, as it helps push this video out to more people, and subscribe. Without further ado, let's get back to the video. Scientists are already incredibly skeptical, but to live alongside one's wildest dream while possessing the level of intellect as the Soul Society's greatest mind made bridging the gap between miracles and reality possible. As the embodiment of this principle, it is no surprise that Mayuri believes nothing without obtaining proof of it himself. All things that exist do so due to a mechanism to reproduce and evolve, beyond which one needs only grasp the mechanism. This mentality serves as the generator to his seemingly limitless evolution throughout the series. This is why he never appears the same twice. His physical transformations mirror his black hole-like curiosity, and though not the greatest justification, it sheds a little light on how he can justify to himself the unspeakable experiments conducted on his subordinates and his enemies. As a Mayuri fan, I'll admit it's not the most pleasant thing to hear that a scientist would like to study their specimen until they're mince meat, but certainly within the confines of said curiosity. Mayuri's Zanpakuto, Ashisogi Jizo, further builds upon this idea. Jizo, being the protector of the souls of dead children, is painfully ironic, considering Mayuri converses with and disciplines his Zanpakuto like a cruel parent. The discipline, however, is never careless. He breaks only the blade, never the hilt, ensuring evolution isn't hindered. The ability of Ashisogi Jizo is also of interest, as it immobilizes its victims, not from conventional paralysis or pain, but simply stripping away bodily autonomy. The distinction invites a deeper discussion. In Bleach, divinity is often linked with ideas of perfection, and perfection within systems that function flawlessly, but free will differs. He has the right to choose against the system, and is feared because it leads to disruption. Ironically, the creation of the Bleach universe is built upon stripping away the bodily autonomy of the Soul King, and as such, stripping autonomy mimics divine enforcement, a world where no error is possible because no freedom remains, but also the birth of the original sin. In battling perfection through control, Mayuri paradoxically edges ever so close to that which he despises: blind submission to divine order, a core irony of Bleach's theological scene. Yuha also steals the name of the Judeo-Christian god, and Sazai Aparo crucifies crucifies himself like Christ, and both chase absolutes under the guise of truth. Mayuri and Suzayo are two sides of the same coin. Both were crucified in their arcs, scapegoats in the scientific quest for the ultimate truth. But whilst Suzayo believes himself to have become perfect, seeing no further point of growth from death, Mayuri is undone by the contradiction of beginning to believe in something perfect, his creation, Nemu. Mayuri claims to love only progress, but Nemu's death shakes him, not simply because she died, but because she evolved without his control. In battling Penaida, she surpassed him, gaining true autonomy and growing beyond his system, disobeying him through growing up as a daughter, and recognizing but also making up for his shortcomings. When he performed a subpar high-speed surgery on his arm against Penaida, forgot the flesh supplementation drug, she could see the true effects of the loss of Yamamoto, whom he wholeheartedly respected. It was in her coming of age that the system crumbled. She was finally able to choose, and she chose. And in choosing, from being a mere dream, she became real. Mayuri's sorrow isn't just grief, it's existential. As someone obsessed with evolution, the idea that death might mean nothing if not followed by informed rebirth, as made markedly clear by the failures of the Shinigami after Yamamoto's legacy, was utterly devastating. This brings us to Gnosticism, the pursuit of knowledge from an apotheistic interpretation of Christianity. Mayuri is often depicted as the Sun Archon, but as established in the Gnostic tradition, not divinity. His headdress during the battle with Suzayo affirms this, and as many of you might have realized, is the iconic Nami's headdress, reminiscent of Egyptian pharaohs. Its importance lies in the symbolism of solar radiance, reaffirming the Gnostic themes and the crossing from the living to the afterlife, most famously tied to Tutankhamun, who was a pharaoh that restored polytheism, which is a fitting echo here considering Mayuri embodies the idea that there is no single truth, there are no absolutes, and it ties wonderfully back to Hachigen's unforgettable line during he and Soifon's battle with the king of Huecomundo, Baragon. In the Soul Society, there are no gods except the Soul Reapers, which is why we cannot fathom the meaning of your words. Mayuri, a Shinigami, exists in a world where no god, no matter the guise, is unchanging or inviolable. That which claims to be absolute can be undone from the inside out, and is precisely how Hachigen overcame Baragon, and fittingly how Nemu's brain, brought about by Mayuri's expertise, brought down the arm of the illusion of divinity, Penaida. It makes Suzayo's return all the more satisfying. The scientist who had believed in perfection, using the incomplete body of Nemu as the vessel for his phoenix-like rebirth, where death is no longer the end but the beginning. This in many ways resembles the Nemuri project, but the critical difference is that Nemu's death informs life. For her, evolution, no matter how bitter, and for Mayuri as a father and as a scientist, where Suzayo seeks control, Nemu chose the path of growth and evolution. Mayuri saw this and had no choice but to accept the painful truth. Autonomy is a chink in the system. It disrupts but proves that he succeeded. He created true life from nothing, and with that, in the face of Suzayo's harsh words, he had no choice but to let go. That is, to come to terms with the failure of perfection. The final form of Mayuri's Bankai in many ways rounds off his character arc. Matai Fukuin Shotai embodies the journey, an unsightly purple baby which emits a miasma and evolves mid-battle rather than its predecessors that required preparation beforehand, birthing a new countermeasure specifically designed to overcome the opponent at hand. It represents perfect adaptation or evolution and uses this concept as a weapon. It mirrors Mayuri's existence in this world as a baby to the unknown, both a mother and father in the life of Nemu, the start of endless evolution. But as all ideas of perfection, it fails. Against Penaida, this theoretically divine system can't keep up. It is only when Mayuri realizes that Suzayo was right, that he'd grown complacent after viewing Nemu as perfect, he surrendered not to the enemy, but to the truth. The kanji for prostrate found on the Bankai embodies this idea, to fully give oneself up. This is his Nirvana, the moment where he is true to his name. Not godhood, not finality, but acceptance. That all things remain in a state of flux. Evolution is not the ascension to the domain of the gods, it is the turbulent ocean of endless shifting. To evolve is to indulge in the madness, let go of control. Mayuri's true miracle was never the superhuman drug, the past perception manipulating drug, the scythes, the grotesque creations, but this. He, a man of mechanisms, managed to create life from nothing, a feat surpassing even the lights of Urahara Kisuke, a life that chose to die on their own accord. And through that, it taught him that there may not be perfection, but there is bliss in the act of perpetual rebirth. So maintaining the cycle of souls may not all be that bad. It also provides a new perspective on scientists. Perhaps scientists are the true form of believers. They accept reality for what it is, and their skepticism isn't heresy. It's not a denial of reality, it's the complete opposite. Their skepticism exists only to the extent that the world allows. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like, leave a comment telling me what sort of videos you'd like to see next. Ichigo versus the 4th Great Ninja War was requested by Josh. I'm working on it as we speak, so that's up next. But if you guys like analysis, let me know who you'd like me to do next. Maybe another series, doesn't have to just be Bleach. And as always, I'll see you guys next time. Peace.